Hello and welcome back to the Drive Formula podcast. We're glad you are here. Today we are going to be reading from Chapter 11 of the book Driving Engagement. This is the final chapter of the book. So in our series, our enhanced audiobook series, this week you will get Chapter 11, and then the final episode of this season will be our deep dive into Chapter 11 and then discussion over the book as a whole. So you don't want to miss that. If you haven't caught the previous episode, you can listen to the entire book as well as the author's deep dive into the chapters with additional stories and explanation and our thoughts on why we included what we did in the book and how it's important. So really interesting stuff there. So please subscribe and listen to the rest of the podcast if you haven't already. We also encourage you to purchase the book Driving Engagement by Eric Lichty and Marcus Williams if you haven't already. You can purchase it online at your favorite online bookseller. Even if you prefer listening and this is the way that you get your content, by purchasing the book, you're helping us out, number one, but number two, it allows you to go back and take notes, maybe jot down something that you heard or that piqued your interest during this discussion. While listening, you can highlight, and if it's not for you, buy it for a friend. Share the information with them so that it can help them help their team drive engagement either for themselves in the workplace or as a leader for their team. So today we're going to read Chapter 11, so let's dive into it. Chapter 11, Driving to Success. Even if you don't drive, chances are you find yourself in some sort of vehicle on a regular basis, be it a rideshare, taxi, or commuter van. From here on out, every time you climb into a vehicle, think about what kind of leader you are at work. Every time the seatbelt light flashes or the low fuel light comes on, think about how you respond to problems at work. Have you created an environment where your employees are sending those signals to you as soon as they sense a problem? Or are you the guy who tore out the fuse to the dashboard so you wouldn't have to be bothered by any of those pesky lights? The biggest problem with books or programs designed to help you become a better leader is that the people who desperately need to learn the principles being taught believe they are already doing everything right. They don't need the help. Don't let that become you. No matter how well you treat your fleet of vehicles, you will have cars that break down on you. You probably have already created a mission statement, a vision statement, and even annual goals for your business. If that happened above your head, they have been passed down to you as expectations. Even if you aren't the CEO and don't get to decide the direction of the entire fleet, you do have the ability to create goals for your own team, and especially for your own vehicle. You get to set your destination and how you are going to get there, especially if your boss has given you the car that fits your role and needs. When we break it down to the bare bones, a driver has to do 3 things before driving off: turn the key, shift into gear, hit the gas. Thousands of signals and explosions are happening because of those actions, but those are the things a driver has to do to go anywhere. Turn the key equals trust. We've already talked about expectations regarding our vehicles. We trust that our cars are going to work, and they trust we will operate and maintain them properly. We trust the engine will fire up when we turn the key. Trust goes both ways. All of us were hired to do a job based on our specific skill set, education, and experience. Whether you were recruited or you responded to a job announcement, you were deemed the best person for the job by the people who interviewed you and reviewed your qualifications. Your company trusts you to do that job and bring that expertise to the table. They trust you will give it your all and that you will fill that hole that they identified when they first created your position. On the other hand, you trust that the job advertisement was accurate and you will be doing the job you signed up to do. You trust that your company will give you the tools and resources to do the job they expected you to do. You wouldn't try to tow a boat with a sports car, and you definitely wouldn't take your truck to a drag race. Leaders, listen up. Use your employees wisely. Don't erode their trust by putting them in the wrong position. Trust also dictates that all of us, act like a sensor in a car. Just as a sensor is tasked with monitoring a specific function in a car and then sending that information back to the computer, you are responsible for letting your leaders know when something is broken or needs to be fixed. They trust you to let them know. Unfortunately, that trust doesn't always translate to communication, which leads us to our next point. Shift into gear equals communication. Everyone talks about communication, but few people do it well. Let's turn to our vehicle for advice on how to communicate. When you shift gears, you are telling the vehicle you are ready to go and in which direction. As you are driving down the road, you and your car are constantly communicating with each other, even when you are speeding down the freeway. You constantly make minor adjustments with the steering wheel to avoid bumps, obstacles, and just to keep you straight between the lane lines. Roads are not built perfectly flat, so if you let go of the steering wheel for any length of time, eventually you will end up in the wrong lane or off the road completely. These adjustments are so small and constant you don't even realize you are making them. You also tell the car when it's too hot or too cold by adjusting the air. You adjust the stereo. You adjust the mirrors. All the while, your car is communicating with you as well. Obviously, the dashboard or screen will show errors and warnings just like we talked about, but your car is saying much more than that. The engine makes a certain sound when it's running at peak efficiency. The belt will screech and whine to tell you it needs to be tightened or replaced. Your tires will tell you through sound and vibration if they need to be changed. The biggest barrier to communication in the workplace isn't the lack of words. We talk, we text, we email, we write memos, we use body language. We already do all of that. The single biggest problem we face in effective communication is a lack of humility. Humility is a communication skill. Remember the owner of the vintage truck who was convinced he needed his motor mounts replaced? We often think we know best, or worse, that our coworker is ignorant and therefore we fail to listen. When you remove humility from a conversation, you remove the ability to understand and empathize with the other person's point of view. This seems to be a particular problem with new or insecure leaders. They believe they have something to prove, and by virtue of their job have been endowed from on high with all knowledge pertaining to every job in the company. Ridiculous. Remember, leaders, every employee was hired because they are an expert in their field. If you were the expert, you would have their job, not yours. Approach every conversation with humility and just watch the barriers fall. You will be amazed at how many employees suddenly have valuable input to share. Press the gas equals action. In the immortal words of Charlie Daniels, what this world needs is a little less talk and a lot more action. As your communication skills improve through humility and more people feel safe coming to speak with you, recognize that what they are really doing is investing in their job, which in turn is an investment in the company. Anyone who cares enough to provide feedback to either improve the workplace or your product is investing in the company. They want to believe in the job they are doing. People want to feel proud of the work they do. It doesn't matter what job you have. You can feel pride in your work because you are performing a vital task for someone. Marcus. I lived in Sicily for 3 years. Neighborhoods there could go weeks without trash pickup because of corruption and organized crime. I am now eternally grateful for the men and women who pick up my trash every week. I'm grateful for the teenager who hands me my bag of food with a smile and genuinely tells me to have a good day. People who care about their job, who are invested in their company, will produce better and higher results. So why are we as leaders so adept at creating miserable employees instead of happy ones? The key is leading by action. When you turn your steering wheel to tell the car to turn right, it does not respond with a message stating, "Thank you for your input. I will take it under advisement and bring it up at the next meeting." No, it turns the wheel. On the other hand, when the check engine light comes on, you don't run a focus group to decide whether or not to take the car into the shop. You believe what your car is telling you and take action. Is all this to say that you have to implement every suggestion immediately? Of course not. Some suggestions might be good, but only beneficial to a few employees instead of the whole team. Other suggestions may not align with your goals. That's fine. If that's the case, communicate. Explain why. Sometimes a suggestion is big enough that you do have to take it to your boss or the board. Communicate that and then do it and follow up. Hey Susan, remember your suggestion from last week? Well, we had a supervisors meeting this morning and I had it put on the agenda. We had a great discussion about it and they would like you to put together some additional data projections. Maybe it will never be implemented, but Susan knows you took action and did everything you could. She trusts you. You listened, communicated, and took action. The goal is to lead a successful business by building the best widget or providing the best service. You do this by hiring and retaining the best people, which in turn requires your employees to feel happy, fulfilled, engaged, and needed. Happiness is the bridge from engagement to retention. Find the best person for the role you need filled, and then give that person the car they will love to drive. Provide clear and transparent expectations along with all of the tools they need to accomplish their assignment. And then get out of the road. Be ready with air, oil, washer fluid, or whatever else they need to keep driving ahead so that you can get things fixed and back on the road as quickly as possible. Know when to jump into race mode and when to slow down into maintenance mode. You are managing a fleet of very different individual cars driven by unique and talented individuals. Keep the cars shined and in tip-top shape, and you will be surprised at how far and fast they will go. There is no reason for employees to feel so depressed and unengaged at work. We spend our entire childhood dreaming of what we want to be when we grow up. Why does it have to be a disappointment? Here's the truth. It doesn't. We can feel excited about going to work again. We can feel fulfilled at work again. We can be happy in our jobs. With the right perspective, we can sit down behind the wheel, turn the key, and listen to the engine roar. All right, folks, so that is the end of the book, Driving Engagement. In our next episode, we'll take a deep dive into that chapter and also just talk about the book as a whole as our final episode of Season 1 of the Drive Formula podcast. So make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you can listen when that episode drops. We appreciate you listening. Please, again, purchase the book. It's available wherever online books are sold. Driving Engagement by Eric Lichty and Marcus Williams. Have a great day, and we will catch you next time.